Welcome to the Pastor's Connection podcast, where we delve into the heart of ministry and explore the challenges and triumphs of pastoral life. Join us as we connect with inspiring leaders, share insightful stories, and equip one another with tools for effective ministry. Together we can foster a community of support, encouragement, and growth in our calling. Today's episode is brought to you by BroTech Design. BroTech Design is your go-to destination for exceptional web design and reliable hosting solutions. They create stunning websites that captivate your audience and ensure seamless performance, helping your church or business thrive online. Elevate your digital presence with their tailored services at BroTech Design. Contact them today at info@brotechdesign for assistance and to transform your online experience. I am your host, Thomas Osterkamp, and I am so glad to have with us today Jonathan Beazley, former pastor and founder at Mind and Body. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Today we're going to be talking about pastoral health and fitness and how that affects life in the ministry. But before we jump into that, I'd like to help our guests kind of connect with our audience a little bit and get a feel for who you are as a person. And so, Jonathan, if you would take just a couple of minutes and introduce your family to us.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm John Beazley. I'm married to Bethany. She is the best part of our team, our family. She keeps all of us boys in check. I have three crazy boys. Adrian is my 10-year-old. William, who has some disabled aspects. He was born with golden heart syndrome. So if any of you that follow our family, you'll probably, especially my wife, you'll see a lot about advocating for the disabled community. But we've been on that journey now for 7 years. He's 7 years old. And then our youngest, Jack, he's 4. And have you ever seen the Incredibles? You ever seen that?
Yes.
Jack. We named him Jack, and I actually thought about Jack because he kind of looks like him, a little bit of blonde hair and everything like that.
Yes.
But his personality fits the name. Like, he turns into that little fireball sometimes and like, whoa. Or what's that little like demon-like thing?
Yes.
He's like goes nuts. So Jack is definitely our firecracker. William is kind of like, he's Mr. Even. He's really steady. He's really like just a generally happy type boy. And Adrian, our 10-year-old, he's like Mr. Brains. He's an incredibly smart kid. Takes after his mom. So that's a little bit of our family.
Okay, so you said your second son, William, did I hear right, golden heart syndrome?
Golden Har. But that's close.
Har.
Yeah, Har syndrome.
Can you explain? Like, I don't really know what that is. Can you explain to our listeners kind of what the situation is with him?
So there's probably a better technical definition for it, but basically he was born with one eye and one ear, so his face was not fully developed, and there's other aspects of his body, just like he has like a curvature of the spine. It's kind of a form of scoliosis, but
Okay.
But he's kind of an anomaly. Like, this is a syndrome that they just said he best fits this, but we're actually not really sure. And
okay.
Our whole journey with him has been an absolute mystery. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, does he have autism? Does he not have autism? His communication right now is nonverbal, sign language. He will yell at us, though. He has a trach, so he'll like put his finger in his trach and be like, ha! It's the cutest little thing. But he is super smart and like loves to communicate. I'm trying to learn sign language. Bethany is really good, I think, actually very efficient at sign language. So we're trying to get our whole family involved in that communication to be present for Will, be able to communicate, talk his language. But he'll laugh at me because he knows out of mom and dad, I'm kind of the slower of sign language. So I'll be, hold on. I'm going to get my word. Here it is. And I'll weave that sentence together. And he's like, no, that's the wrong word. And, we'll work it through. Every once in a while, I'm like, hold on, let me go get mom. And I'll go get her to like help with getting it right. But it's really been neat to see how God's opened up so like a world of what we just never expected. Just one, understanding the the disabled community, because I just felt like I was blind to that before. And I'm so much more empathetic when I see kids at the park with like any type of disability. My heart goes out to them because they're just kids. They're people. They want to have fun. They have dreams. They have desires. They want to connect. They want friends, you know. And but a lot of times society doesn't really focus on those type of people at all. They kind of marginalize them, which I think is also a great opportunity for the church to really think deeply about, hey, how do we care for these kinds of people? These are some of the things that we've been thinking through, but that's our family, where we're at, and some of our experiences.
Go
ahead.
Let me ask you a couple questions, and we will get to the topic today, but I think this is something that may be helpful for some of our listeners, ministry leaders, whether it's something they experience themselves or somebody in their church who's dealing with these issues. Because like we have some dear friends of ours. In fact, their last name is Beazley as well, but it's an S and not a Z. And they have a daughter who is nonverbal. And so because she's nonverbal, I'd not dealt with this before, I just assumed that she was totally unaware and everything else until it was explained to me, like, no, she's mentally exactly the same as her age. She just can't communicate in that way. But parenting itself has its own challenges. And then when you have a child who is disabled, you have different challenges. What has been, you think, the biggest challenge for you and your wife, just in parenting and things itself?
With William particularly, you mean? Or just yeah. So, you know, when a child is verbal and they're trying to communicate, you know, when they're little, and you're like, what in the world is this kid trying to say? Like their words are mumbling together and they're not articulate yet. And you're like, what are they asking for? And maybe they came up with a name for something, but you didn't know that was their associated name for whatever. So it's like their special thing, and they call it my Fluffy. And you're like, what's your Fluffy? What? And they get frustrated because they feel like they don't have the language to communicate to you what their angst is. And as a parent, you're just like really trying to figure it out, mainly because you're like, I want it to be calm. I don't want the stress or whatever. But you might actually feel their anxiety as well. That's amplified when you're trying to learn. Like Bethany might have known some sign language prior, but we both had to kind of learn a language to communicate, learn how he communicates. His sign language is actually a bit different. He'll come up with signs that we have to kind of figure out, like, what is he talking about? And there's times where he could be really upset or frustrated because we're just not getting that, you know, and we're just like, it's kind of like when you have the pain of the immediate circumstance, there's also the pain of like, oh my goodness, like this highlights the whole journey that we've been on, the pain of like this journey, being in the hospital, almost losing him several times to circumstances like trying to place his trach and we couldn't get it in and he passed out, almost died.
Wow.
We've had like several occasions where it was just gut-wrenching circumstances, even in the hospital. Like we're just like, okay, we're probably going to lose him. And so just to have, when you have these smaller issues, it can actually highlight the pre-existing trauma that has been kind of building up. And man, there's still probably aspects of that trauma that we're still trying to process. And we're at the spot now, like William's still very much a mystery. And though the truth is, none of us know, even with our like able-bodied kids, you know, we don't know how long God is going to give that gift to us, you know?
Right.
Like kids can pass away, tragedies could happen. But with William, we live with that very present. Like I just gave William a hug today. I was sitting next to him and I looked at him. I was like, I don't know how many more times I will have this, you know, like he's healthy right now, but he could take a turn. And this is actually a segue that we could go to if you wanted to. But one of the reasons why we stepped out of the pastoral ministry was a combination of his medical complexities with COVID. Like if he would have gotten COVID
sure.
at that time, it was life-threatening. And so we had to actually adjust at that time to our relationship to the gathering had to change temporarily for a season to make sure that he was stable. And that still is very traumatic when we get into the wintertime and there's all these types of flus and all this stuff. He just responds so much more strongly. If he gets sick with the trach and upper airway issues and not being fully developed in some ways, it becomes a full-time job to really make sure that he's safe and okay. And there has been times where he's been so sick where he's like grasping at his trach to breathe, but he's trying to pull it out. And if he pulls it out, he would have problems. Now, he's much more sturdy now, but there was a time when he was younger that if he pulled out his trach, we had about 30 seconds before he turned like purple, blue.
Wow.
And would, pass out. And there's a couple times he did, and we got the trach back in. We're able to have an ambi bag to kind of bring him back. But it's just like, living with that tension all the time it's been interesting. But it also, I'll tell you what it's done. It's really helped us manage towards what are the controllables? What do we actually have control over? Because all of us have an illusion of what we actually have control over. And then when life happens, we realize, there's a lot I don't have control over. And I'm a big philosophy buff. I just love studying ancient philosophy. It's just one of those things I enjoy. And I've been reading like Stoic philosophers. And one thing the Stoics would teach, they would say, you have what you can control and what you can't control. And they create this dichotomy. It's like really focus on the controllables. And I find that to be interesting. And what they would try to say is if you focus on what you can't control, you won't find serenity. You'll find anxiety and panic and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Paul actually has this kind of Stoic intuition as well when he says, I know how to be abased. I know how to abound. I've learned in whatever state I am to be content. But Christianity can take it a step further, where Stoicism, not connected to like any type of hope of eternity or afterlife or anything like that, or resurrection. They were just like, hey, in some Stoics, they would say like, this life is all there is. You kind of go back to the earth or whatever. Whereas Christians were like, hey, we're anchored to something that's bigger. Even though we can't control everything, we know the one who does.
Yeah.
And that, I think, this path that God has put us on has really allowed us to become stable in something that's still actually very unstable. It's like, there's a lot we can't control, but it's made us better. It's been an interesting journey.
So you talk a little bit about the journey, and that is a good segue to, you former pastor. So if you could kind of share your pastoral experience and then kind of a little bit into the transition of what you're up to now.
I'm a bit eclectic, to be honest with you. So when I graduated college, my wife and I just jumped into itinerant evangelistic ministry. Lord just opened up some opportunities. We traveled around and preached. I think I say we, that's the royal we. You get what I'm saying there. But we preached, I think, in 48 states, 47 states, maybe, somewhere right around there. And just had a blast. It was great, just traveling all over the country. We did that for 5 years. And during that time, the Lord just began to really burden our hearts for discipleship. Like, I loved preaching in places, but I just felt like, I just want to see the gospel take root in people's lives, and I want to see it multiply. And also, I was intrigued by urban areas and how culture is formed, kind of studying anthropology and sociology, and like cities is like the hub of where a lot of like culture is developed, and it kind of disseminates to the countryside and on. And I just kind of got fascinated with that. I was like, oh man, if we want to reach the nations, we need to reach the cities. Then I read a book by Timothy Keller. It's called Center Church. Are you familiar with that book?
Yes, I read that. Great book.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I love Keller's way of synthesizing and simplifying things and concepts. And he was talking about that same idea and how to like contextualize the gospel in a city, and not to over contextualize where you have you almost water down the gospel. Don't do that. And then under contextualizing, where you're bringing in aspects where it's like, hey, this is the church background I'm used to, and it's kind of alien and weird unnecessarily in culture. And I just learned a lot from it. But I just, like, that book wrecked me in all the good ways, because I was like, oh, man, I would like to see a movement of the gospel in a urban context. So we had, I don't know, I always was intrigued by Seattle, and I can't even put my finger on it, to be honest with you. I was just intrigued by the city. We had gone through Seattle in evangelism, went to a Starbucks. Of course, Starbucks started out in Seattle.
Yes.
And I had a conversation with a guy about religion, and the guy I just was talking to was like, what do you think? He's like, oh, I'm agnostic. I don't believe at all. And we had this great conversation, and I was like, oh, my word. That was such a refreshing conversation, because in the South, where I grew up, I was so used to hearing people talk about, it was kind of Christianized. Like, they didn't really know Jesus, didn't really know the gospel, but they grew up and they knew the language, the lingo, so they could, and part of it was like trying to convince them of what the true gospel was,
Yes.
Here it was just like, I don't believe in God. I don't think there's any really good evidence. And you can start to say, oh, interesting. What do you think about this? Have you looked into this? How about this bit of evidence, whether it's a, general revelation, you're talking about things there, or just even about the gospel, the resurrection, or whatever. Yeah. And it's just seeing them open up or resist or whatever. It just was fun conversation. I feel like I'm made to be in an area like this. And I was we prayed about it. 2015, we did a survey trip. And it was interesting. We had just been in New York City, and my wife hated it. She's like, I hate New York. I hate it. And I was like, wow, I've been praying about cities, and you seem to hate cities. This is not good. You got to kind of come to an agreement. But when she went to Seattle, she's like, this is the city. Like, I really love the city. And it was just interesting to see her shift. And she loved it so much. She's like, we should just get our family to mail our stuff out, and let's just go. Let's just get started.
She was all in right away then.
She was absolutely all in. And then after that, we, figured out, like, okay, how are we going to, go about it? There's a whole shift from, I was in evangelism, I was more in the independent Baptist orbit. And then I kind of had a shift of how I'm going to develop my support structure. So that's another story, maybe for another podcast. But so we figured that out, and then we came out to Seattle in 2018. I did pastor actually in between there, because we were in between the transition. I was thinking, I'm not sure how I'm going to raise support for this yet. So I had an opportunity for a pastorate, and they knew that I was going to transition, but it was just an opportunity to pastor there for a while. So I did evangelism, pastorate, then I did church planting. 2018, we went out and we built a team, built a core group of people, launched in 2019. It wasn't long after that, though, that COVID happened. And we continued that church all the way post-pandemic, but William's condition became more severe, and we had to many of my coaches were like, I think it's probably good for you to transition. So our church, most of it anyways, ended up merging with another church plant in that area. And so I was thankful for what God did there. It was a bit of a death of a dream. It was hard. And there's still times where I look back on it and there's grief there. It's like, we still plan to get back to Seattle someday, Lord willing. But one thing, man, this would be an interesting conversation too, but I think the way that our culture's going in Western culture, I think we're going to see more and more pastors become bivocational. Yes. And one of the things that I'm doing with my business right now is actually getting to the place where I'm stable enough to do ministry anywhere. Yep. And I don't have to rely on like support structures. I'm not saying that that's a wrong or bad route to go. Matter of fact, it is ideal to be full-time in ministry. It's ideal. But I do think that we need to walk in wisdom and realize, oh, hey, everybody's kind of grasping for the support right now. We might need to be creative in that space. But yeah.
And like I grew up and only knew full-time ministry paid by the church, supported by the church. And then we moved here. where the church can't support us. And so my wife started a painting company, and I work for her painting interior, exterior houses just so we can pay the bills. So now I've had to come to terms with I am a painter, and I have the opportunity to do ministry on the side, which
man,
is
it opens up so many
positive and
opportunities.
negative. So
Yes, there's negatives for sure, but I do think the positives of being connected to your community. Think about a painting company too. When I started, no, a lot of people don't know this, but when I started my coaching, I actually started off on the side, and I started a cleaning company, kind of like a painting company, I would assume in some ways. But like, so we were trying to get like reoccurring cleans and opportunities, and it actually did quite well. And then my coaching took off. Like, I wasn't even like marketing it. I was just like, hey, I'm doing coaching now type of thing. And it really just went well. Then we got referrals, and it started really like building some momentum to the point where I was like, oh, wait, these are now competing with each other. I was like the CEO of both of these companies. And I was like, oh man, I'm sure if I was more skilled, I could manage both of these, but I ended up throttling down the cleaning company. We actually ended up closing it out, and Mind and Body just took off. But I still have, there's a space in my heart for those service type companies, because they're just a fun way to get to know people, and sometimes a discouraging way to get to know your area.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah.
But
my oldest daughter is.
I have a question for you.
I was going to say my oldest daughter's 19, and she started her own cleaning company. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Okay, that's cool. The reason why we started a cleaning company was I had a friend of mine who owns a cleaning company in somewhere in North Carolina, and they were like, it's so easy to start. Like, you could get jobs this week. And I was like, okay, all right. And Beth and I started out doing all the cleaning. And then shortly after that, we were figuring out how to find cleaners, hire them. And then I shifted into the management side of, I didn't do any of the cleans. We just had cleaners. Hardest part of that was finding cleaners, by the way, just like consistent. Because if they were really good, they would end up like starting their own gig. And if they weren't so great, you had to like really you're like, please clean well, please clean well. My prayer life increased. I was going to ask you a question about your painting thing real quick. So, because you're this marriage and family dude, right? Yeah, you guys are going around, healthy family. So your wife is your boss for the painting. And then when you guys come home, there's like, you guys are trying to manage this, right? Like, how does that go for you guys?
I mean, she's the boss most of the time. Really, the only place I'm not, I am the boss is at church. But even in that, like, we're a team. So
there you go. The team element. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So you transitioned out of the pastorate, and you started Mind and Body. What is it that motivated you to focus on health and fitness? And we'll get into the pastor side of it too.
Yeah. So I've always been a fitness nut, for one. Always just I was ever since back in college. I had guys I trained in college. I've always been kind of like trying to learn more about like lifting, whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting. I never competed, but I've always been like, hey, I did powerlifting for years. And then I kind of transitioned from more of powerlifting to more like hypertrophy training, like just bodybuilding kind of style. And I just really enjoyed that, getting stronger. It could be like physique goals, but when I started having children, it shifted more from, how big can you get your guns and all that kind of stuff to more like, I want to be here long term. I'm actually, all of my working out right now is longevity is at the central. It's sure, who doesn't like to have a physique, in certain ways, but it's like, the physique's nice. That's great. But man, I want to be here with my kids. I want to be able to get down with my grandkids. I want to be able to play hard. And there's just a direct connection between those who start that habit, particularly as early as possible, and they have longevity. They end up not only living longer, but they have a quality of life longer into their later years. But that was one of the things that I've always been passionate about. One of the things that have moved me into the coaching space course, my transition there from the pastoral ministry, I'm thinking like, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? Type of thing. What do I feel wired towards?
Yeah.
And then the opportunity just began to open up. But when I was a pastor, I just got hit with so many waves of discouragement and struggle. And there were times where, and I know the spiritual answer here is to say, like, man, when you're depressed, cast your care on him, for he cares for you. And absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But have you ever cast your care, but you've actually had hard thoughts towards God? And you're just like, man, I'm struggling right now, even with prayer. Like, even saying words in prayer is a struggle.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been there. And so sometimes actually what was like really instrumental, and I think this is a gift from God, I don't separate it from God, is I had the ability to go, like, you know what? I don't understand life. I'm struggling with ministry. I don't understand what God is doing, but I can go to the gym and throw around some weights.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to throw around some weights and work out hard. And it's actually one of the ways that God has orchestrated our bodies to deal with stress. And sometimes this is where people who hyper spiritualize everything kill me, because they're just like, you should only have spiritual responses, and they separate the body and the spirit so strictly, and they don't see the integration between body, mind, and spirit. They don't see there's a interconnectedness. Now, I think biblically we can make an argument that there is an interconnectedness, but also scientifically it's been proven over and over and over again that somebody's mental state is directly connected to their physical state. Doesn't mean that if you're out of shape that you have to have this mental health issue, but you are going to be struggling in mental ways if you neglect your body. And I knew that working out for me as a pastor was a lifeline. Like, it helped me reset where I was so preoccupied with the problem in front of me, thought there was no solution. I would go work out and come back, and I was more creative. I was more solution oriented. And there's a reason that happens, So that's when it comes to my connection. And what I've seen is with pastors is that they end up scheduling out their well-being, and they schedule in the well-being of everyone else.
Yeah, you're right.
But eventually they burn out, and they can't help the well-being of others or themselves. They hit rock bottom. And I think if you look at it, here's a great verse in Timothy. Now, I know that Paul is not specifically talking about physical fitness here, but he said, take heed unto yourself and to the doctrine or to the teaching. I think a lot of times as pastors, we are so hyper-focused on, I want to have doctrinal clarity. I'm going to stay true to the gospel. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be a faithful steward. But if you think about stewardship, it's often, I would say more times than not, when people step away from ministry, it's not because they had doctrinal heresy issues.
Yeah.
It's these secondary and tertiary things that have taken them off the map. Like, they had doctrinal clarity, but they didn't change their relationship to the opposite sex. They had doctrinal clarity, but they didn't change their relationship to finances. They had doctrinal clarity, but they didn't change their relationship to their own personal well-being. Of course, I know we're focusing on that well-being aspect, but I do think that that's what takes guys out, is like they have not really focused on their well-being. So I'll pause there and let you interact some more.
Well, just like you were talking about the fact of, certain people not like really trying to separate the two and over-spiritualizing everything. I was talking with James on our first episode of the podcast about the fact that when I was a teenager, I suffered some sexual trauma, and ever since that day, like, I have had issues with depression. Like, I fight it every single day, and you've had these people that would be like, well, if you were closer to God, you wouldn't have that problem. You just prayed more. If you just read the word more. And it's like, no, there's a real issue here. Now, one of the ways that I deal with it is just like you were talking about, is I go to the gym and I hit the weights hard, and that's one of the aspects. But it is connected. And you think about the burdens that pastors face here. the weight we face, like it compounds when health is an issue also. So that has me wondering what your thoughts are and what your experience is with how a pastor's physical health directly influences their ability to lead and serve effectively.
Yes, so that's really helpful and a good question. So one thing, if I could just play off what you said real quick, and if I don't quite answer your question, bring me back to it. But I wanted to say something.
Okay, yeah.
You're talking about dealing with a particular problem of your past, and man, if you just prayed more, if you're connected to Jesus more, it'd be gone. But I don't think that is fundamentally how the Lord works. Actually, most of the time, because like for instance, when Paul in Corinthians, where he says, "Take this, whatever thorn of the flesh is, away from me."
Yep.
And it was weakness. It was debilitating. And the Lord saw fit not to. And in his weakness, the Lord's strength was made perfect. But what was perfect in the Lord's mind was you remaining with this particular thing, which kept Paul dependent on the Lord. And I think about that, and we can live with this. If I pray, God will answer. If he doesn't, something's wrong with me. It's really poor theology. It's just and we have to realize that, hey, actually, I am beloved of God. He's not putting me on the shelf. He's not sitting in heaven with his arms crossed saying, once you figure this out, I'll receive you. That's not the gospel. In Hebrews chapter 4, on my worst days, when I'm like faltering and failing, he says, don't come with timidity, but come boldly to the throne of grace.
Yeah.
That you may receive what? Mercy.
Grace.
Well, it says mercy first. So we say mercy and find grace to help in time of need. I need mercy when I failed. And so, isn't this crazy? When I need mercy, God is calling me to be bold.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. That's the gospel. And so, like, I can come to him and say, hey, I want you to, I need help. I need you to take this away from me. And what the Lord does is that he gives us enough to manage it in a way that's still it's still glorifying to him. It's not like the struggle is ended. We still have the struggle. And I deal with this with clients when they deal with anxiety. I say, the goal is not to say, I'm trying to get rid of all anxiety. That's impossible. You're always going to have stress. Life has stress. It has pain. You're always going to have it. So to think that you're going to try to get rid of it, that's an illusion.
Yeah.
You rather want to say, how do I manage stress? How do I cope with it so that I can move forward but still be a functioning individual? Now, the good news is, as Christians, we have resources that are far better than just like typical psychological aids to help people overcome anxiety and moving past.
Breathing exercises and whatever else,
Yeah, and I think even as Christians, we might even utilize like, okay, take a deep breath. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's scientifically proven to help you. Go work out. That's scientifically proven to help you. But we can do that in combination with prayer, with meditation on the word, being anchored to gospel hope. Like we know, like whatever happens in this life, Christ's kingdom is coming in. I mean, Jesus said, I am making all things new. And to me, Christianity has like, it's both affirming of that general revelation, some of the psychological and scientific things that is that a word? Things that we have.
It is today.
It is today, right? We can grasp that, but we can also say, but look how much the word, it's like general and special revelation together in like a beautiful way. So anyways, I could digress on that a long time. But I did get away from our question. I did want to talk about that. I heard an interview by Erwin McManus. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
And I know him fairly well because they were starting a church in a campus church out in Seattle, but their main church was in California. But he says in an interview, he's like, people just say, man, you're just such a fearless person. You're so fearless. And he's like, actually, I'm not. He said, I grew up with a lot of fear. He's like, one time he rode a roller coaster and the seat belt on his roller coaster came unlocked or something like that, scared him to death.
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
he was like, I'm never riding roller coasters again. But then he saw a pattern. He kept doing that with everything that made him fearful. He made a decision, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then before you know it, his category of what he would do was shrinking. And he came to the decision like, you know what? I need to reverse this. So anytime he feared something, he says, I'm going to face it right away. I will not give any delay between fear and facing it. And so people started looking at him as like, man, you're so courageous. He's like, nope, I'm still just as much fearful. I've just developed the habit to run toward it instead of away from it. And I thought that is actually the power of faith. It's not diminishing all of these struggles. It's how to persist in the face of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in spite of it. So when we talk about health, and we're speaking about to ministry leaders here, how does a pastor's physical health influence their ability to lead and serve effectively?
now we're back to that question. Thank you for getting me back there. So when you take care of your health, you just show up better to everything. Like you're going to have better mental clarity. Your emotions are going to be able to be regulated better. When it comes to like your own creativity and your thoughts about the future, and as a pastor, you're one of the main visionaries of the church. All of that is going to come out better when you're in a good, healthy state, both mentally and physically. And so setting up these key rhythms to ensure that you're, as it were, you're checking the boxes to make sure you're cultivating the conditions for you to function optimally through a healthy routine. When you neglect these things, you're creating the context where you will not be optimal. You will be foggy in your thinking. You will lack energy. You will be short. Your emotional regulation will not be on point, and you'll find certain church people will push you in certain ways, and you will not have the stability as a healthy person to handle it well. So I think when you lead yourself well in daily rhythms, including health, you lead other people well. And I think this is one of the fundamental things. One of the reasons why I think some of the things that pastors just consistently trip up on, and maybe this is a question that you were going to ask later on, but I'll just hit on this, is like because of a pastor's schedule and what they do, like for instance, hours in meetings, sermon prep, counseling people, there's typically minimal physical activity. It's a
lot of sitting around.
Yeah, sedentary lifestyle. Then a lot of that sitting and fellowship is around food, and we develop poor eating habits. So it could be church potlucks or fast food or irregular meals, like just eating at weird times, like really late. And again, that doesn't have to necessarily be all bad, but it can be. A lot of times when we're eating really late, we're also just eating snacky type foods and vegging out. We're stressed. We want the quick dopamine hit of food in my mouth that tastes good, and you might watch a show with your wife or whatever. So it's like, I'm going to distract my stress and drama with someone else's drama. So there's this dopamine hit there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that's inherently wrong. I think all of us could use time like that. But in the excess, so we have sedentary life, poor eating habits, and we carry this chronic stress, and this affects our sleep cycles. So we're out of sync with our circadian rhythm, and we're just like not sleeping well. And here's one of the biggest things, and you can kind of attach this to just neglecting self-care altogether, but I think pastors struggle with setting clear boundaries.
Yeah.
So if I had to summarize where I think pastors really struggle is commitment to rhythms. Like they schedule those in. Those are non-negotiable meetings with yourself. I think it was, I had this quote. I might even have written it down. It's a John Maxwell quote. He goes like this: "You can't give what you don't have."
Oh, yeah.
And so after a while, when like you're just an unhealthy person, it's going to spread to physical unhealth, mental unhealth. It probably will affect your spiritual life. Not saying that it has to, absolutely, but it probably will. And you're going to limit your ability to serve people. But if you can get down, I'm committed to rhythms, and I'm going to set up clear boundaries. And I know people want to treat the pastor like the functional savior, and you don't do them any good to continue to fan that fantasy. You are not the savior. You are a pastor. You're pointing them to the savior. But when you jump and dive and move at every desire that everyone else has for you, you become an unhealthy person, and it's not sustainable.
No, and one of the things I've noticed, just talking about effective in ministry, is when I'm exercising on a regular basis and I'm eating better, Sundays don't take such a physical toll on me. I wake up Monday and I'm not totally exhausted and totally spent. Now, there's still that emotional and spiritual toll that happens, but physically I'm better equipped to handle it versus when I'm just eating garbage or laying around or not really being as active as I should. So,
yeah. Well, I just think like it's probably pretty intuitive when you're facing a spiritual battle. Like, I mean, we as pastors, we believe in a spiritual warfare, right?
Yeah.
Does that not take a toll on your physical body? It does. So doesn't it make sense for us to say, hey, since there is this warfare, I need to be physically capable of handling this kind of stress that comes from a spiritual battle that we face. And then even aside from a spiritual battle, there's just the mental exhaustion, leadership exhaustion, even if it's not in a spiritual context. There's the weight of that. And man, if we're not in physical shape, and again, the connection between your body and brain is so clear. Like, this when you're anxious. Have you ever felt like sick to your stomach?
Oh, yeah.
So anxiety's playing out in your body. There's a book out there. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you ever read it. It's a great book.
No, huh?
But it talks about the connection of like all of our struggles, emotional struggles, anxiety, depression, whatever, takes a huge toll in the body. And if we want to overcome those things, it cannot just be handled psychologically.
Yeah.
We actually have to learn to deal with that stress and let go of that stress through whether it's regular exercise, a routine, and it's important. Of course, there's a spiritual dynamic to that as well, as we talked on.
Yes. Now, you talked about some of the issues, sedentary lifestyle and the busyness and the regular schedule and all of that. But what are some practical steps that you feel like pastors can take to help prioritize their health and fitness amidst their demanding schedules?
Yes. Okay, so you probably heard this. This is a James Clear quote. Have you heard the book Atomic Habits?
Yep.
He says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So if I talk to pastors like, hey, do you value health and fitness? Like, do you think that's important? Who's not going to say yes?
Exactly.
Right? Everyone's going to be like, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's right. And they might even say, yeah, I want to get in shape. Okay. If it doesn't get to system level, then you're just not going to go anywhere with it. And even just kind of like, before you even come up with a routine, like here's my workout routine, type of thing.
Yeah.
You need to first figure out, it's like, how am I actually going to schedule this in? And then I'm also going to be committed to that. And I would go as far as saying, schedule your workouts like it's a meeting.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, oh, hey, let's say you were planning to go to the gym at 4 p.m. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. 4 p.m. and somebody comes up and is like, hey, I want to have a meeting with you. And you're at, 4 or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. I actually have something scheduled at 4. But hey, could you meet at fill in the blank?
Yep.
What that shows, people, or I should say, pastors can live with the tyranny of the urgent. Like everybody's coming to them and all of their struggles are just urgent. But I'll just be honest with you, most of them are not. There are
You're right. Yeah.
There are a few that are, but most of them are not urgent. They may feel like it. And what you actually might help them better to say, hey, I can't meet with you right now, but I can if we can schedule it here and I'd be glad to spend some time with you, but you're still keeping boundaries and rhythms of good health, boundaries of I need to take care of myself. If I don't, this is going to slip, and eventually I can't do this long term. You just got to fight for that. And I would tell the church this. I don't mean necessarily like the whole schedule workout like a meeting, because I'm like, this is a workout or a meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that you should say, hey, this is my. Would you say that me being a pastor who is spiritual, walking with Jesus, do you think that's important? They would probably say yes. Do you think me keeping care of my health and managing my stress and all that, do you think that's pretty important? Yes. Well, here's how I'm going to do that. Here's my rhythms. I'm going to set up some boundaries, and this is how I'm going to live. And I think a lot of interviews today, years ago, it was, have you heard the statement? I hate this statement. It's terrible. People would say, hey, take care of the ministry and God will take care of your family. You've heard this statement, right?
Yep.
It's like, man, that's a horrible advice. Absolutely horrible
God
advice.
put me in my family to take care of it.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And not diminishing what God can do, but it's like God's given me responsibility to steward this responsibility I have. And the same is true like with your own physical fitness and health. And now people will come into candidate at a church, and a conversation will come up about like, hey, how do you view family in church? That's really an important topic to hit on, because if a church actually has the mentality like you take care of the ministry, God will take care of your family, you don't want to get into that situation. It's not going to be healthy. No. So you would set that. I think pastors should set the same kind of thing for their own well-being. Get that set up. I think is important.
Yeah, and for me, like I have to get my exercise in before I do anything else in the day, or it's just not going to get done. So, like I set my alarm for 4 a.m. A lot of times I'm up before that.
4?
And I head to the gym.
Oh my man, I am put to shame with your discipline. I'm going to wake up at 3:30
4 teenage
tomorrow.
daughters. Like it's I got to get it in before everybody gets up. Otherwise, my day gets going and it's gone. Yeah.
You got to find what works for you. But man, 4. I just want to get up at 3:30 and just text you like, "Hey, Thomas, at the gym, bro."
Yep. I'll be up.
Like just hitting off, you were talking about like specific things, and you just hit on something like figure out the time of day. If it's early, just get up and go.
Yeah.
And like I've just determined too, like mornings work really well for me, and I'm just like, hey, if I need to rest later, then like I might take a rest, take a nap or whatever. But when you wake up, there's always an excuse like, oh, I didn't sleep very well, this or that. I'm just like, regardless of how I slept, whatever happens. I mean, obviously, unless I have to go to the hospital or something, I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm not going to like go on this debate session every single day of whether or not I'm going to go. And once you get into that rhythm, like any discipline at first is hard, but once you get into the rhythm, it just becomes second nature to you. I don't know if you heard of the subject of neuroplasticity, but like our habits have shaped the way that we think in our brain. So when we begin new habits, it's in conflict to the way our old brain is thinking, and it's hard. Yeah. But eventually, new pathways are formed in the brain, and it aligns with the new habits. So it becomes easier over time. And that's why habits stick, because our brains actually can change to match the new direction that we've set, which is awesome. But a couple of things that I would say, schedule your workouts like a meeting I mentioned. Yep. I would focus on movement over like perfection. Just like first learn to move. Like even if you're like gym memberships off the table, you don't have a lot of equipment, it's like, hey, if you could just learn to move the body, your body is designed to move. Like find ways to, and I like, instead of separating these two, like working out and well-being and then ministry, find as many ways as you can integrate rather than separate. So like, so like I got to meet with so-and-so, but I want to move. Hey, so-and-so, would you meet me at the park? Let's have our conversation and let's walk. Not only are you teaching good health habits, but it's proven like in the scientific literature that when we walk, we're more creative, we're more productive. So you might even have a better meeting walking than you would sitting, just generally. Okay. But I think that's a great way. I have a pastor friend of mine that was in Seattle. They walked around Green Lake. It's like a 3-mile walk. And he would just schedule his day of people walking, and he would walk like, I don't know how many miles a day. But he was actually overweight, and just through this one change, he actually began to like get in really good shape.
That's great.
Losing weight just by the movement. I tell my clients, I work with a lot of business CEOs and stuff. It's like, hey, when you have a phone conversation, ask, can I do this moving or do I have to be sitting? After every single meal, like a lot of people will plan like a 30-minute meal or something like that. And this may not always relate to pastor schedule because they might go out to eat, so they may not work all the time. But I always try to say after every meal, I try to walk 5 minutes out, 5 minutes back. It not only aids in digestion, but it's going to help you get your overall movement in. So that's what I would do. When it comes to like nutrition, man, if you could do some type of meal prep or planning ahead, it's just going to save you so much. And when I walk through with a client through food, I just say, hey, let's try to map out a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack that you can consistently do that's easy to put together. Let's map that out. So it's like, hey, usually most people eat the same breakfast, maybe one or two variations. So let's make sure that breakfast is high protein and has a good combination maybe of carbs and fats, but it's balanced. And then let's figure out your lunch. What are you eating for lunch? And I might help the person tweak. They're like, oh, I eat this sandwich. I'm like, oh, it's okay, but maybe not enough protein. So let's figure out how we can beef that up, type of thing. So we nail down the lunch. Then we now dinner's where the most variety is. And I usually like to help a pastor figure out like, let's come up with some macro-friendly meals that you rotate for a while. And let's get into the habit of that, and then we can slowly add additional meals. If you go out to eat, I don't know if you're this way, Thomas, but most pastors, when they're meeting people, they're like, hey, let's go over to here because it's a restaurant they know. And it's normally like a handful of restaurants. Well, do a little research, planning ahead and saying, what would actually be, good options for me to eat here? And I'm going to do portion control. You can enjoy good foods, but just portion control. Make sure you major on protein, vegetables, and really pay attention to limiting your carb intake at meals. The reason I say that is not that carbs are bad, but it's so easy to overconsume bread at restaurants.
Yeah, totally.
And so just like pay attention, just like meat, vegetables, getting protein, getting good fiber, getting just good minerals and everything from the vegetables. But I'm going to be careful with my carbohydrates. If you just put a little bit of planning ahead, you say, hey, I'm going to figure out how I can integrate rather than separate. I'm going to move a lot. And then if you can have a scheduled routine of going to the gym or doing some resistance training, man, you're going to go so far. And a couple of the things that I would do after that would be once you get workout and nutrition into place pretty well, I would say, hey, how's your sleep patterns? And those are the big three: exercise, eating right, and sleep. Once we have that dialed in, we would start to set smaller, achievable goals that would enhance those major three things. But those are the rhythms. Matter of fact, in my pastor's group, Fit to Serve, there are 8 key rhythms that we try to integrate into every pastor's life. And we start off with just like, hey, let's get working out in place, get training in place. Then it's nutrition, and then we tap down those 8 other rhythms.
Okay. So you talk about, obviously you have clients of all varieties, but you have a special group just for pastors, Fit to Serve. How would somebody, if there's a pastor or ministry leader listening to this, how would they be able to find that group if they wanted to find that support?
Yeah, totally. So I can share that link with you, Thomas. So it could be like in show notes or whatever, wherever you guys place that.
Perfect.
But it's a part of the Allies Network, and that's a neat group to join if you're a pastor. You might be interested in that. But Fit to Serve is specifically for pastors. And again, as I said before, like I'm basically giving you what you would get with a personal trainer, but for a fraction of the price. It's like $25 a month. You'll have weekly check-ins with me, and I'll help you dial in your nutrition and your training. I write a program for you. So program to follow, it's going to be through an app, so it's easy to follow. I help you dial in your nutrition, and we sync like like a way to keep track of your calories and everything. And I teach you how to do that. It syncs to my coaching app, so you have your workouts, you have your nutrition, and I'm able to look at your nutrition and your workouts every single week and just say, oh, hey, tweak this, tweak that, and you go for another week. And we're having some great success. Like we've had several pastors in the group now that've lost over 60 pounds.
That's incredible.
Just being in the group and showing up, and I was like, hey, do these things. And they're like, okay. And the people that are just adhering to the program are just doing great. And the nice thing about the group is that it's specific towards pastors. So you can tell the comments, people talking in the group, it's just like, it's pastoral struggle, but in the context of all like, hey, we want to be healthy. We want to pursue wellness. So it's been pretty fun. It's pretty new group, actually. We started in August, and so it's been neat to see the way it's grown. Every quarter, we try to have some challenges. Like it could be like right now we're doing like 10,000 steps a day challenge, and those who hit every day with getting their steps will enter into like a prize. We'll give like Amazon gift cards. So it's kind of fun. I mean, who doesn't like an Amazon gift card?
Yeah,
kind of game
some motivation.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, yeah, I'll jump in. And I know some guys were like, I'm not going to walk today. Wait, I want that Amazon gift card. So
yes,
they got up and they went. I was like, that's great. So we have fun. We have some little competitions, check-ins. There's some good community. So if that is something you'd be interested in, yeah, I'd love to share more with you if you'd be interested.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, because here's the thing. If you are a ministry leader out there, whether you're listening or whether you're watching, what do? We preach self-control all the time to people, right? Whether it's what they look at or how they behave and all these other things, and that many times we're a walking billboard for a lack of self-control. And so there's a lot of different reasons why I ought to prioritize my health. And, John is able to help you specifically walk through and take the steps that you need to take to get to a better place physically. All right. So what if somebody wants to connect with you a little bit closer? How can they reach out to you and hear about your podcast and everything mind and body that you have going on?
So yes, we have like a mind and body podcast, and probably, you could search on Spotify. Some people find it, some people don't. I don't know if that's how your podcast is when you're kind of almost share the link with it. But
yes.
If you reach out to me, you can go to our website, which is mindandbodystrength.com, or you can find me on social media, which I'll share that. You could shoot me just a DM or something like that. I'll send you the link to the podcast. If you would like to book a consultation, that's on the website, or else I can also just send you a link if you reach out to me, and I could do a free consultation with you, which you could move into coaching, or if you just need help, you just need somebody to help kind of set you on the right direction, I'd be glad to just chat with you for free if you want to just jump on a call. But I love helping pastors. I want to see them, as it says in Corinthians, glorify God in your bodies.
Yes.
You ever think about that passage? So often we think about, in the context, it's zeroing in on fleeing fornication. But I just think about the broader concept of, hey, I'm actually called to glorify God in my body. And, man, I love helping pastors do that. There's this quote by Irenaeus. I think I say this often, but Irenaeus said, the glory of God is man fully alive. I love that quote.
Yeah.
I just think about, there's some pastors who, if they were honest, I said, hey, do you feel fully alive? They would probably say no.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of feeling that fully alive, and Irenaeus was not talking about fitness, by the way, just to be clear, but I do think ordering your life in such a way where you're like, I'm stewarding my physical, my mental, and spiritual well-being. When you do that, it's as full alive as you can feel until Jesus comes. And I just love helping pastors feel that way. Yeah,
I love that. So you can reach us here at Pastors Connection Network by going to pastorsconnectionnetwork.com or finding us on Facebook at Pastors Connection Network. Jonathan, thank you for being on the podcast today. We appreciate your input and your help for all of our ministry leaders.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Pastors Connection podcast. May you be inspired and equipped to lead with grace and purpose. Until we meet again.